Rent collectors moving from multifamily apartment complexes to single-family homes.
It really was disappointing to see that the world of renting has come to this.
As more out-of-town investors buy Ohio's starter homes for cash.
Do you mind if I ask you what you pay in rent?
$13.50.
$13.50.
They're raising rents for thousands.
A little word called compassion. Have compassion on people.
Now state and federal lawmakers are stepping in.
Do you think we're in a crisis?
I do think we're in a crisis.
As homeownership becomes less attainable for constituents.
So it's keeping you from even buying a home for yourself?
Correct.
These are the hidden costs of today's housing crisis.
Hello, YouTube viewers. I'm ABC6 on your side problem solver Lisa Rontola, and this is my latest edition of Hidden Costs of today's housing crisis. In Ohio, lawmakers tell me they fear a new renting trend will kill off the middle class. That trend, out-of-town and out-of-state investors buying up Ohio homes as soon as they hit the market and then renting them to you.
By 2040, they were talking about upwards of around 40 or 50% of the single-family homes in this country would be owned by corporate landlords. And I just find that deeply disturbing.
And just take a look at the state of Ohio. We're in a hole of about 250,000 homes to meet current housing demands. Until we can build, the spotlight is on buying. According to the Pew Research Group, institutional or out-of-town investors are hitting Ohio hard. They bought nearly 33,000 single-family homes, which was 21% of the home sales in 2021, and that number was twice as much as the year before.
There were people still living in this house up until about 2 weeks before we moved in.
With retirement just a few years away,
This was like our, okay, we'll take it house.
school teacher Teresa Foster and her husband decided to downsize before relocating to Iowa.
So I've never been in a house, that the stair steps are in the middle.
So they sold their $375,000 home in Thornville and looked for a home to rent.
We looked in subdivisions in Canal. We looked in subdivisions in Pickerington.
Even under different names, Teresa tells me she found every home she looked into linked back to Nevada-based corporation American Homes for Rent.
Seemed like almost any subdivision that was a house, a home, was owned by American Homes for Rent.
What did that tell you?
That they had a monopoly.
According to AMH's first quarter earnings report, it owns more than 2,000 homes in Columbus, nearly 2,000 more in Cincinnati. This is part of the more than 50,000 homes it owns across the U.S. The executives of the company posted a video to investors on their website.
We're maximizing the returns to our investors.
Also online, American Homes for Rent highlights an increase in rent and other single-family property revenues of 11% to bring in nearly $400 million for the first quarter of this year.
I think that, we're at their mercy. And if they want to raise rent, they're going to raise rent, because where else are we going to go?
Teresa is now paying $23.50 a month for this Etna home, which AMH bought for $213,000 in 2019. Her own mortgage for an even bigger house was less than $1,800 before she sold.
Do you think we're in a crisis?
I do think we're in a crisis. I think and the worst part about it is a very slow-moving crisis.
State Senator Bill Blessing out of Hamilton County is now trying to crack down on out-of-state investors who buy, own, and rent out homes in Ohio by the thousands.
Do you want to live in a world where home ownership is dying?
He is proposing to levy a tax of $1,500 a month per property for any entity that owns more than 50 single, double, or triple family homes in one single county.
They would then be forced to sell. These properties would then go back into homeowners' hands.
He's also calling for transparency of knowing who operates an LLC at the point of a home purchase.
It's not a difficult business model to understand. Try to get the property as cheaply as possible with a cash offer and avoid an appraisal at all costs. evict any current tenants who are not paying the highest rate the market will bear.
His own constituents are battling Texas-based corporation Vinebrook Homes, which he says owns close to 4,000 properties in Hamilton County under 90 different LLCs.
The number of properties in Colerain Township, close to 28,000. And here's how it breaks down. According to Hamilton County, the state of Ohio, Vinebrook, and the township itself owns the most properties in Colerain Township. Vinebrook coming in number 2 with about 515 properties.
A lot of times they'll buy these things in a large package. So you'll see, 20 houses on the auditor's website that all went in one day.
One Vinebrook Homes renter we spoke with in Colerain Township did not want to be identified.
Our rent was supposed to be like $1,250.
And at this point, she told me there's no way she can buy a home of her own.
The rent is eating all of your savings.
Pretty much.
So it's keeping you from even buying a home for yourself.
Correct.
And then because they're stuck renting, a lot of these companies then say, oh, people prefer renting. Well, no, it's just that they can't afford to buy a home, not that they prefer renting.
Even with similar out-of-state investor trends seen in Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland.
The streets of Cleveland are paved in platinum because the houses are so cheap following the foreclosure crisis, and the rents never declined.
Senator Blessing admits he's facing an uphill battle at the State House due to colleagues from his own Republican Party.
Some of your colleagues from your own party are saying this is not what we do.
Correct. There are a number of folks within my own party that view this as, to your point earlier, that this is not free market.
He predicts if the number of homeowners continues to decline and renters increase,
shareholders get a better return on our product than they do on somebody who's just out acquiring. And a better return is better for our company, better for our shareholders.
We're in store for even worse conditions ahead.
If we go into a recession and people start losing, their homes, we're really going to be in bad shape in Ohio.
I was only able to find the executive office locations for both American Homes for Rent and Vinebrook Homes from their reports they filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. I have not heard back from Vinebrook, but AMH sent me this statement. Single-family rentals have been a popular housing option for decades, and companies like AMH are creating greater consistency in experience, convenience, products, service, and amenities while providing the benefits of single-family living. Large single-family rental companies like AMH own a small fraction of single-family rental units in the Columbus region.
They do such damage to the community. They buy them up. They raise rents. They often don't keep them up.
This month, U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio announced his proposal for the Stop Predatory Investing Act. That would eliminate the federal tax deduction of interest or depreciation on properties owned by corporations and investors with portfolios of 50 single-family home rentals or more in one community. Even if these corporations claim to own a fraction of the single-family home rentals, Senator Brown says that fraction still equates to thousands.
The opposition is saying this is messing with the free market. Is this act messing with the free market?
Well, the free market it's not really the free market when you give tax breaks. We're just taking away the tax breaks.
Can the Stop Predatory Investing Act pass without Republican support?
No, we'll need Republican support.
I contacted the office of U.S. Republican Senator from Ohio, J.D. Vance. I asked his stance on Senator Sherrod Brown's bill or the housing issues as a whole. After more than a week, they've yet to get back to me. Institutional investor AMH now wants to create a new build-to-rent subdivision in Marysville, and the concept is creating a lot of controversy. Dozens of homeowners who live next to Weaver Mill Farms attended AMH's presentation to City Council this week. AMH wants to build 300 single-family rental homes in a cluster type of housing. Those homes will be valued at $400,000. Their rents will range from $2,300 to $2,700 a month. Rent has increased in Marysville by nearly 20% in the last year and a half. And the developer says this project would not use affordable housing tax credits issued by the state.
These will not be affordable housing. I wish I could develop affordable housing all over Central Ohio because there's such a need. But that's a unicorn. Marysville Land, Marysville Services, Marysville Construction, home builder construction, labor, interest rates, all of that does not allow for affordable housing to be built here. I'm just being honest. It's a unicorn.
This is one of 4 rental subdivision proposals AMH has made throughout Central Ohio in the last few years. Marysville City Council will vote on a possible change of zoning for this project in August. And those facing higher rents are calling for change and government control. Some tenants in Lancaster are now forming their own picket lines, saying this housing trend is forcing them out with nowhere to go. A simple instruction for drivers passing by Colonial Estates Mobile Home Park in Lancaster. Honk if you hate rent hikes. Those sending the message,
Thanks for coming. I know this heat is brutal.
members of a tenants union of the park who are mainly seniors and on fixed incomes.
We come up about $400 short every month.
Dan Weichel moved to Colonial Estates 12 years ago when he and his wife decided to downsize. With repeated increases to lot rents, he says he now pays a $700 payment on his trailer, $619 on the lot, and more than $125 on water every month. That's compared to his $2,100 he receives from Social Security.
But I could buy a house for $169,000 and still be paying less than what I'm paying here.
Management did not talk to me about their hikes and told me to leave the property.
You know, and I hate to have a big government, but if it's going to take the government to do that, we need some sort of rent control.
According to testimony out of the Ohio State House, home ownership in Franklin County is dropping. In fact, 66% of homes in the state of Ohio are owner occupied. Despite that, lawmakers voted to ban rent control throughout the state last session, and it was something the governor soon signed into law.
I'm here to tell you that this is less putting a lid on it and more attempting to blow out the fuse of a powder keg.
We spoke with State Senator Louis Blessing this week, who calls current renting trends in Ohio a crisis.
You know, an increase from $1,400 to $1,600 or $1,700 in many cases is an eviction.
He says rent stabilization will happen with more housing inventory. Right now, Ohio's shortage is 250,000 homes.
It's very difficult to get builders to come in there and build if there's no possibility that rents can at least rise with inflation.
Weichel says he's yet to see rent stabilize for him.
Do you think they're going to listen to some Ivy League economists firmly tell them that rent control is bad for the economy? Absolutely not.
And with neither management or Colonial Estates owners coming to the table, he wants his lawmakers to reconsider.
We'd like to see a 3 to 5 year moratorium on any rent increases.
In the next Ohio budget, Governor Mike DeWine announced $750 million to go toward new housing investments. According to the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, 1 million Ohioans, including 700,000 renters and 300,000 homeowners, spend over half of their incomes on housing. The agency also finds rent is now higher than any other year on record other than 2021, even when adjusted for inflation.
For the first time in Ohio's history, we are creating low-income state tax credits to build thousands of new rental properties for families.
Governor DeWine said the $750 million will help fund apartments and single-family homes, Ohio land banks, and homeowner savings accounts meant for down payments and needed repairs. The state hopes the new tax credits will generate 4,000 new housing units over the next 4 years. But again, the state shortage sits at more than 250,000 homes. Thank you for joining me for this recent edition of Hidden Costs of today's housing crisis. I will stay on top of this issue as it affects so many of you. Until next time, I'm Lisa Rontola.